Hi, Deb. Good afternoon.
Hi, Sammy.
So I'm going to cancel tomorrow's DCM meeting.
Well, right, because we don't have work, right? So,
Yeah, tomorrow is hardly for many people. So
yeah. All right, so Shruti just sent an email that she'll join at past. David from IBM was trying to connect, but it doesn't seem that he's had any success.
I think the problem. No, I think it's okay. I think when it appeared on the calendar, you need to delete it. Looks like I had a old go-to meeting on my calendar, and I need to go and grab it from the website.
Correct. Oh, there's David again. Um, Hey, David.
Hello. Been forever. I did.
Excuse me?
I said it's been forever since I've been on this call, so sorry about
Yes, it has. Which is fine. I saw you subscribe to the new group, so I thought we might be seeing you again. So to be honest, I took a personal leave of absence. I don't know if you heard Scott left the left Intel, so he left this OCP. VJ has not been involved. He pinged me right before I went on my leave of absence and said that he'd been very involved in some startup or something. So maybe we can get him pulled back in. But basically, we paused meetings for 4 weeks while I was out. So we're just kind of gonna try to get ourselves back
that.
into
It's all
a
good.
regular cadence, etc. So how about you, David? Any news to report from your side?
I was actually able to go to the OCP summit. I'm not sure. I don't think were you able to attend? And
No, because I was on a leave of
oh, it's
absence
right, your
and
leave. Yep.
nobody else felt whatever. Um, like Shruti had two other presentations and VJ wouldn't go, et cetera, et cetera. So we had nobody to present. One thing that's good is that before Scott left, there was a more informal OCP sustainability workshop, and Scott presented our work there. Um, but yeah, and in general, I guess Mohan is disappointed. We have no software resources, so we we've made a lot of progress on thinking things through and writing our white paper and all of that, but we have made zero progress on the software part. And also we've made zero progress on having companies reveal their embodied data publicly. So, but we have a white paper. I guess that's the.
It's a good point. I guess that's where I'm just trying to catch up and figure out where we left off, where I should say, what's changed since I've last been on the calls. And I think if I remember correctly, we had the paper done, the draft, and I think we were going through the approval process. So you said that was finally done, completed, right?
Well,
That
so what happened is that we decided to keep working on the paper rather than releasing it. So the piece that we've been working on most recently is around what we call grading. And maybe since it's just us, maybe I can just sort of find, again, I've been on leave, so to find things. But we did start, we did start to kind of talk about grading. I guess another thing we did was we simplified. Let me just maybe just share the document itself. It became clear to me after talking to some people that we had like one big picture that was trying to explain a lot, and it became clear to me that a lot of people did not were struggling to understand the big picture. So I kind of fell back to, let's start with a simpler picture and then build on that.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to remember how to share. Here we go. So if we go, so we introduced with this picture now, we call it example 1. So it's just a very simple IC package, no daughter card, that contains one chiplet in it. So this is, so it's a simpler picture. And so we explain a lot of the concepts with this picture, and then we explain how some of the data and the metadata would be delivered and what it would be. We give how to calculate embodied carbon. We give this example, and then how to calculate what we call grade. So grade is like, you can kind of see there's some proposals here for how to grade.
Yeah, there
So
you go. Scope 1 grade, scope 2 grade.
yeah. So you can just kind of see, you get +1 if you do this, you get +1 if you do that, +2 if you have measured versus modeled, estimated, etc. You know, more points, the more of your supply chain is included, etc. So this is just a proposal, and we'll continue to work on it. But the thing is that you then need a way of normalizing your grade so that a package that has 10 chiplets can be compared to a package that just has one chiplet. So that's sort of what this calculating of the grade pieces here. And then also we explain how to calculate the embodied carbon. So then we go on to example 2, which just adds the N chiplet. So in this case, I think we did one chiplet from one manufacturer and 4 copies of a second chiplet. So I actually modeled this on a part that I'm familiar with that has the single chiplet would be the compute, and the 4 copies is high bandwidth memory and package. So just kind of showed for that how things would be different and how you would calculate the grades and the embodied carbon. And then example 3 is basically what we had previously, the more complex version where it includes a daughter card. So I have not yet worked my way through the grading and the carbon analysis for this example. So it is still, so that is still TBD for me. But I do think that this was a good improvement, that it just sort of, it starts things out with a much simpler picture and just sort of, builds up from there and gives, concrete examples, starting with the simpler picture. So that is a, pretty big change since I last talked to you, David. I mean, it's all the same concept. It's just trying to clarify things, and adding this grade concept. And then, we added some other stuff. This is all was there before. We've talked quite a bit in the hard drive space. Aria and Shruti have done really good work with this. So yeah, so I think where we are now is we're going to finish up the grading, and maybe at that point we will again say, okay, we're ready for review, once we all like it. And as part of the review process, there was a bunch of things like I need to write an abstract. I also need to redo the conclusion section. It's very weak, etc. Another thing that just was news to me last night is OCP wants to tackle the renewable energy and the grid carbon intensity. So seems that this group is nominated to own that as well. And as we've seen, all of that feeds into the embodied carbon, but it also is part of the operational carbon. I think I'm, from all the people I've talked to at OCP, I'm probably the best able to at least introduce all others to the concepts and where we are now with grid carbon intensity calculations and etc. But I would say up front, my stance is going to be that we shouldn't reinvent the wheel. We should follow along with the greenhouse gas protocol. They have a set of rules for now, and they are in the process of updating their rules. So as they update, I will propose that we just follow along. But that's still going to be a pretty big, I think it's going to be a pretty big lift to get everybody at OCP educated and nodding their heads. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. And that would be something separate from this too. I wouldn't think we want to include any of that into what you're showing today, correct?
No, it would be a new white paper.
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
We did have a bunch of presentations at the summit, not from this group per se, but did you attend many of them, David, the sustainability presentation?
Yeah, I actually attended a fair number of them, and Shruti and a whole bunch of other ones. It's actually kind of interesting to see how things were been pulled together and then represented at the summit, because it's kind of my first experience with OCP, so it was kind of good to see how it was transitioned from the beginnings to maybe even presented out to the wider audience.
Mm-hmm.
I was there, at least IBM was there because we were showcasing off. We built a tape library using the same OCP specs, and how we can get a higher density out of our tape library. So we're showing that off, and so we had some presence there. We didn't have any presentations. We had the only presentation I think that was from IBM was around flash storage and security, to detecting cybersecurity threats.
Cool.
That was about it. Yeah, interesting topic.
Very cool.
Hey, Deborah.
Hello, welcome.
Hello. Sorry, I joined when you were in the middle of
Yes,
sort of briefing about the paper.
yes.
So I was actually going to ask what was your view on this. So I know in yesterday's larger project meeting call. Wait, was it yesterday or day before?
It was yesterday.
Yeah, sorry, late yesterday. Yeah, I know that this group got nominated to, also include work on operational carbon. And
Well, in particular, the piece on grid carbon emissions. That's what I heard.
yeah, so
Grid carbon intensity,
sort of,
right?
yeah, that's sort of what I wanted to clarify, that what's your understanding of what will be included over here. Now, like you said, the grid carbon intensity is a part of the embodied carbon also.
Exactly.
It's a part of the use phase also. So
Exactly.
are you thinking that the part that is included in embodied carbon goes in this white paper, and then the part that is use phase goes as a separate white paper?
No, my thought was that we'd start a new white paper on the grid carbon intensity. And then we could reference that in this white paper as well as like like the telemetry working group, right? Because for operational carbon, if you look at it, right, you say that that's equal to grid carbon intensity. If you're doing it, say on an hour basis, right? Operational carbon for a given hour is grid carbon intensity for that hour, and grid carbon intensity is CO2e per kilowatt hours, right? And then you multiply that by your your power, the power for that hour, which you captured via telemetry, right? I'm doing this at an hour, but people can do it at a finer. So the capturing of that via telemetry and all of that, I would say falls into Danny's group. I've talked to him about it in the past. He kind of put it aside, but he was more focused on the redfish, right? But in any case, so you multiply these two, right? And so this is just kilowatts, right? So, and since it's for 1 hour, the kilowatt hour. So you come out with CO2e, and pardon me for not getting my subscripts and everything right here. So this is the operational. So long story short, I think we would write a white paper that describes this, and then then the document we have can refer to it. Because right now, if you look just sort of like obliquely, perhaps refer to it, where we say embodied carbon location, embodied carbon market, right? Does it meet the RE100 criteria, etc., right? So we kind of obliquely refer to it, whereas now we'll be able to say, if you want to understand this better, read the separate white paper that this group would try for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if we are, like what you actually wrote down in your other notes, if we are sort of just including that the operational carbon is power used into the grid carbon intensity at that time, then like in the white paper, are we looking to describe that these are the various grid intensity databases, or are we looking to I'm
So,
trying to see what about grid carbon intensity are we thinking should be included here. I was thinking it's mainly its usage that we want to concentrate on, but it sounds like we're talking about the grid carbon intensity itself.
you have to get this constant, the grid carbon intensity for the hour. You have to have this number or
Right.
some version of this number. And so, yeah, I mean, this is what, I'll draft up the white paper, and I think in OCP we have to do a lot of education around this. But my stance is that once, we should understand it, but we should not try to drive any standards around this. The WRI, right, the World Resources Institute, they have the greenhouse gas protocol, which we actually refer to multiple times in our document, right? This here defines how to do accounting for the grid carbon. Basically, it's defined. It's there's the two different ways to do it now: the location and the market. And so, and then, but right now things are very, very fluid around this. There's a lot of camps kind of staking their claim that their vision for how to move forward is the correct one. And so the WRI said they're going to spend the next year deciding how to change the protocol and all of that. And so my stance is that we don't want to duplicate that effort. It's very contentious already. I think us jumping in there, we don't have the expertise, first of all. And second of all, they've already gone and collected all the feedback and done multiple listening groups and written up this, right? So I would say we just basically want to follow along with what they decide. And then if we want to, put tweaks on it, or like we said, we could grade the embodied carbon higher if the methodology used is, more is stronger, but still within the GHG protocol standards.
So I understand that part. So GHG protocol has basically defined, okay, how do you do market-based, how do you do location-based, and we don't want to, go into any of the work that, of course, they have already defined. And that's sort of why I'm trying to understand what is it that we want to cover in that white paper. Like when we
I
say
would say just explaining all of this so that people in OCP have an explainer and they understand. I guess the other thing to talk about would be, place methods to obtain grid carbon intensity.
so the databases that might be available.
Well, they're not really databases per se. They're, they are, there's
What
so
type?
there's
Yeah.
First I was just going to say, since we are embodied carbon focused, IEA, so typically when large companies figure out their embodied carbon, they do it on an annual basis because GHG protocol and all the reporting, like to CDP, for example, to all these new, like the SEC and the California requirements. I mean, those are all going to be annual reporting, right? So one thing that you can do for your annual reporting is to get, contract with IEA or some other high quality, although IEA is the gold standard, but some other high quality provider of grid emissions. So you can get annual for the geographies of interest, right? That would be kind of like the way that embodied carbon would be done, right? For operational carbon, maybe you would want watt time, maybe you would want electricity maps, maybe you would want, let's just say other things coming. So the way that the grids work, and I hesitate to, every grid is its own thing, and even within the grid there are pieces, that all work the same way. But in general, at least in the US, the way that it works is that they kind of do a day before bidding. So all the owners of the sources of power bid for each hour. I think they do it on an hourly basis. They say, I can provide so many gigawatts, and here would be my price per gigawatt or something like that, right? So there's like a bidding phase, and then it's decided, the grid operators decide amongst the bidders which ones they're going to take for each hour, and they inform them. And then there's other little details, but let's just say they inform them. And then on top of that, there's a spot market. And all of this is predicated on, historical data and weather predictions and blah, 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 right? So they've kind of bought their electricity per hour, but then they have a spot market that's more live during the day itself, so that they can fill out the small misses they may have, if any of this is making any sense. So watt time and electricity maps, I believe all they do, I'm a little bit downplaying it. The basic thing that they do is they look at the results of those bidding, and based on that, or even maybe the asks for bidding, one or the other, they say, oh, okay.
How they're creating their.
Yeah, based on that, they're able to say, okay, for every hour, here's the expected carbon intensity for that grid, right? So, again, it's very controversial between watt time and electricity maps. Electricity maps is very into average, and watt time is into marginal. They seem to be duking it out on that and not really coming to any conclusions, and their customers are taking sides as well. So again, sort of a mess. So I wouldn't look to OCP to take a call between them, but we should explain the differences, say that they are available if, if you want to do your own calculations. We can also, build on, I think on top of watt time, but I'm not 100% sure. The Green Software Foundation has a software layer
Yeah, it
that
does. Yeah. Green Software Foundation does have. I
is
don't
it
know
to
how much it's
is it to
maintained.
watt time? Is it to watt time or to electricity maps? Actually, I can't remember.
I
One or
cannot
the other.
remember that. And the other part is that I don't know how maintained it is. But yeah, they certainly had an SDK packet
Yeah, exactly, the SDK. So, we can sort of steer people. I am super not into reinventing the wheel, and I am super not into getting OCP involved in all these areas of controversy. I think what we should do, at least until WRI finishes the greenhouse gas protocol, another one to be aware of is the RE100 has a set of rules for corporate purchasers based on the GHG protocol. Anyway, yeah, I just think we should have a white paper, have an educational white paper so that people understand the current state, where things could go. So just kind of an explainer.
Okay.
And, if somebody at OCP feels more strongly that they want to try to usurp the greenhouse gas protocol or something, we can have that discussion once everybody at OCP is at least on the same page, understands the explainer, has some basic ideas of how a grid works and all. And I would say, so with the data center facilities, the DCF OCP group, I went to their meeting today, and they had, quote unquote, industry expert to talk about the grid. And there was a lot of things that the OCP members were interested in that I understood a lot better than that person. And that person was asking about data centers, and said I never understood, and how could, so I sort of explained to that person some stuff about data centers and energy. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of education, I think.
Yeah. So
Um,
I'm basically understanding that this particular white paper on operational carbon, we would basically concentrate on the carbon intensity and
exactly.
basically contrast these various databases. Well, or I'll not call them databases, but these various organizations providing data based on what we publicly know of theirs, but just contrast, and that is where we want to leave it.
For now, yes. And then,
Okay.
I mean, this will be a big piece of work in and of itself, right? So let's get through this and see. Like I said, I have no stomach at all for, there's so much controversy right now with greenhouse gas protocol. I would not want to wade into that as, an alternate or some other thing. So we'll see if other people want to do that eventually, but it wouldn't be me.
So just to clarify, would you compare and contrast each one of these, or just state that these are the methods available?
I would try to explain at a high level what a grid is, how a grid works, what a grid is, what grid carbon intensity is, how, at a high level in general, how these things work. It's not standardized at all.
Yeah.
And even within one operator, different portions of their grid could be very different than other portions. But just a high level, what is quote unquote the grid? What is carbon intensity? How do you go from power? How do you take carbon intensity like this, this equation, right? Explaining all of this, explaining the greenhouse gas protocol as it stands today, explaining what the kind of the various proposals to change it are, at a high level, what that's all about, explaining what the RE100 is, and kind of the technical guidance of the RE100, and then just kind of talk through these methods, explain them, explain like the controversy between watt time and electricity maps. What does that mean? What are they each claiming? Give pointers to, if you want to explain, see these things more. One thing I would say for electricity maps that's awesome, watt time might have done it too recently, I'm not sure. But electricity maps, it just has that, colorful map of, now what are the carbon intensities of different grids. It's super interesting just to look at it sometimes. And probably maybe even, talk a little bit about batteries and storage. Because that people keep asking me about that in the DCF group. So it's probably worthwhile to get it written down. So I was going to try to give the DCF group a presentation. Hopefully, they kind of were asking me to do it in December, but there's not much time. And I don't have any of the pictures drawn up or anything. So I tried to push that out to January. But hopefully we can have all of this to kind of, a presentation and, the outlines at least of a white paper. I think that would be a good start.
Deborah, just to inform you also, the cooling environments group was sort of interested in learning what is going on in sustainability project. So I'll probably, put together something that gives a gist of all the work groups and other discussions, and
Good.
send to you, Sammy, everyone also to see. So I'll sort of run them by that. I don't know when is it. I think it's end of November sometime.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. All right, so we spent a lot of time on this. I was kind of, I don't know, I was a little bit taken aback last night when it fell under our purview, the carbon intensity, but the more people I talk to at OCP, the more I realize, even though I consider myself to be kind of a dabbler, I am far ahead than everybody else I've met in OCP. So, the more I can pass on what I know and we all have common understanding, I think that would be good. All right, so we've got like 8 minutes. Do we have any summit recap of interest that beyond David already talked a little bit? Shruti, do you have anything? You had actually that really nice table. Do you want to share that table?
Oh, sure. So I'll actually say that this was not one of the summit sessions.
Right.
I can share my screen. This was actually a few of us, sustainability involved folks who were there at the summit, and we sort of decided to catch up and have a discussion on where we should sort of be going ahead, and analyzing where we are having efforts, where we might need more effort. So there was a discussion about these 5 focus areas mainly. Now you'll notice the 3rd and 4th is already being worked on, and carbon modeling work group already falls in this carbon data or exchange related effort. And in the sustainability metrics, we also already have the DCEM work group, looking at PUE, IUE, etc., and the power telemetry work group by Danny. So these 2 are areas where we already have current work going on. There were 3 other focus areas that came up in discussion. The first one being related to LCA standardization. So 2 different things here. One thing that was discussed was more standardized labeling that could sort of make the LCA output more comparable. And there's a partner, iMasons, who's actually interested in driving this. Although we are sort of looking to include another partner because iMasons may not have all the technical expertise from the LCA side. I mean, IT equipment expertise we can get within OCP, but we also want another expertise of LCA. iMasons, however, does very good with, network driving and have a bunch of members who want to drive the label adoption. Sorry, I'll pause. Was somebody asking? Okay, maybe not. And the other part of this LCA standardization related effort is, one is creating the standardized label, and the other one is actually having the PCR specification, which is the product code rule by which the LCA is conducted. And for that also we are sort of looking at multiple partners besides the companies who are part of OCP. Of course, we want to see if IMEC or MIT Labs had some interest in doing this sometime back, or there are other LCA consultancies who are, right now they are used to the LCA process because they have been doing it for some companies. So they would be interested in sort of being a part and giving input here. So that was with this LCA standardization. So we need to put an effort to push ahead. And the other one is circularity that came up. So we used to have, we've had a good amount of work with respect to circularity guidelines previously. There is some white papers already published. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Yeah, the other portion of this that came up was if we want to do something related to carbon accounting, essentially because, with the push of reuse and recycle and carbon capture, etc., if all of that being assimilated into carbon accounting, or how is it actually represented while doing an organization's carbon accounting, that needs some standardization effort. So that was the question. And I know JM used to be involved when this work was going on, and he was also highly interested in starting this part.
So carbon capture, if you look at SBTI, right, they kind of view it as, the accounting for it, annual accounting against your entire enterprise carbon footprint, not just your IT
Right.
portion. So again, I like, when somebody is ahead, I would prefer to, unless there's something horrifically wrong with their methodology, I'd prefer to, just pick it up.
Yeah, and we can, like, for the carbon capture portion of it, we can certainly, look and call out if that is a good methodology already. I think they don't handle all the cases of, when there is reuse happening, or a transfer of ownership and then reuse, or extension of life of the equipment, or recycling. How do all the different scenarios sort of get assimilated?
No, I agree. The IT specific ones we should be focused on.
Sure.
But just in general, carbon capture, carbon credits, again, those are kind of those accounting is for the entire enterprise typically on an annual basis. We could say, give a guidance that, if you are if your corporate accounting has carbon capture, or other types of carbon credits, then you could, disperse them across your products based on,
Yeah,
product cost or something like that.
yeah, that could be one approach also. Okay. Yeah, so there was this space where, folks were interested in sort of having some effort.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then the last focus area that came up was, I'll say this is a two-part thing. I write here total carbon cost of ownership just to, give that framework of similarity to cost of ownership, total cost of ownership. But essentially, having some standardization in metrics for comparing at device level. Like suppose we say total carbon per unit performance, and whatever is the performance might differ depending upon what is the device or what is the use of the device. Or maybe we need to do total carbon per unit performance per year. I know Eric, I think, had that question that maybe there needs to be a time duration into that standardized comparable metric also. So yeah, that was the last focus area where folks were thinking that we probably need to put our heads together and have some effort.
Great, thanks for sharing. So we're at time. I did want to propose that we figure out a different time slot for this meeting. This is after working hours for me. So probably what I'll do is I'll send an email asking for people to, I'll give a list of possible times, and we'll see if we can get any consensus around alternate times. But for next week, we'll definitely keep this slot. The week after is the Thanksgiving holiday, so we will definitely cancel on Thanksgiving. And then, maybe in December, we will start. All right. Well, very good. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.